Hello everyone, my name is Alan Lee. I'm working with my classmate Dylan Bass on a project focused on AI security and privacy. Before diving into the details of our project, I would like to first place this topic within today's security landscape. AI, which stands for Artificial Intelligence, has become a major buzzword in recent years. It impacts our lives in many different ways, from helping people draft professional emails to solving complex programming problems. In many areas, it has proven to be extremely effective. In cybersecurity discussions, AI has become a common term. However, it is often used very broadly, without clearly defining what specific problems it is actually solving or what trade-offs are involved. For our project, we wanted to focus on a specific and realistic use case, which is insider threat detection. This allows us to examine not only the technical benefits of AI, but also the privacy concerns that arise when sensitive employee data is collected and analyzed by systems owned and operated by an organization. In the following slides, Dylan and I will work together to answer the following questions. Number 1. What is the topic? Number 2. What is the question we are trying to answer? Number 3. Why does this matter? And number 4. Why did we choose this topic? I will begin by explaining our topic in more detail and then walk through the research question we are trying to answer. Dylan will then explain why this issue matters and why we chose this topic. AI-driven insider threat detection offers many potential benefits. But before discussing those benefits, it is important to first define what insider threats are and what types of insider exist. Insider threats are particularly challenging because they involve individuals who already have legitimate access to systems and data. In theory, these users are trusted individuals operating within trusted network environments, and they are expected to use systems according to company policies and acting in the organization's best interests. However, when those assumptions no longer hold true, insiders can pose serious risks. These threats can be intentional, such as disgruntled employees acting maliciously. In other cases, an insider may not have malicious intent at all. For example, a negligent employee making mistakes that expose sensitive data. There are also cases involving compromised users whose credentials have been stolen and are being misused by external attackers. Unlike external attackers, who can often be blocked using technologies like firewalls, insiders tend to blend in with normal activity. This makes detection significantly more difficult, especially when insiders have elevated or administrative access, and in some cases, they might even be able to disable security controls or logging mechanisms to cover their tracks. AI-driven insider threat detection systems attempt to address these challenges by analyzing large volumes of data to establish behavioral baselines. These systems examine factors such as login times, access patterns, file usage, and other activity metrics to determine what is considered normal behavior for an individual employee. When activity deviates from that established baseline, the system may flag it as anomalous. This is where AI differs from traditional rule-based systems, which rely on predefined threshold and static rules and often fail to capture subtle or evolving behavior patterns. To increase or to improve the accuracy, AI-driven systems aim to maximize true positives while minimizing false positives. Achieving this requires collecting and correlating many different types of data to provide sufficient context for determining whether a potential threat exists. This process can be compared to assembling a jigsaw puzzle. The more relevant data points available, the more complete the picture becomes. However, this approach introduces a critical privacy concern. For AI-driven detection systems to function effectively, they must continuously and passively collect extensive data about employees. In some cases, the scope of data collected may extend beyond what employees are fully aware of or have meaningful consent to, especially given that most users do not read privacy disclosure in detail. This represents a shift from traditional security monitoring, which focused on isolated technical events, to ongoing behavioral surveillance. As a result, employees themselves become the subject of analysis, and organizations take on the role of data processors and custodian of highly sensitive employee information. When we talk about AI-driven insider threat detection, we're not just talking about improving security capabilities. We are talking about systems that directly influence how employees are monitored and evaluated within organizations, and which may create opportunities for data misuse beyond the original purpose of protecting company systems.
Hello, my name is Dylan, and I'll be going over why this topic matters. This topic matters because the use of AI to monitor employees is no longer theoretical. It is already being used in real organizations, and the evidence for this comes directly from academic sources referenced in this project, including Cyber200 course materials from UC Berkeley and recent peer-reviewed cybersecurity research. A 2025 article titled AI and Behavioral Analytics for Insider Threat Detection, published in the Journal of Information Systems Engineering and Management, along with a 2026 article from the journal Future Internet, both show that organizations increasingly rely on AI systems to analyze employee behavior in order to detect insider threats. These systems are attractive because insider threats already have legitimate access, making them difficult to detect using traditional rule-based security tools. Behavioral analytics attempts to solve this by learning what normal behavior looks like over time and flagging deviations that appear unusual. From a technical standpoint, this approach can be effective, but the same research makes clear that it comes with serious consequences. These systems require continuous collection of sensitive behavioral data from employees, most of whom will never pose a threat. This shifts the issue from being purely a cybersecurity engineering problem to one that directly involves ethics and human impact, which aligns closely with the focus of Cyber200. This course emphasizes that cybersecurity technologies do not exist in isolation, and that security tools can cause harm if they are deployed without transparency or restraint. The academic literature supports this concern by explaining that many AI-driven monitoring systems lack explainability. This means that employees and even security teams may not fully understand why someone is flagged as suspicious. Because human behavior naturally changes, AI systems can easily misinterpret normal activity as risky. This becomes especially important when examining what happens when these systems get things wrong. The Journal of Information System Engineering and Management article explains that insider threat data is highly imbalanced and difficult to label, which means AI models are often trained on incomplete or artificial data sets that fail to capture real human behavior. As a result, false positives are common. Normal employee actions can be flagged simply because they deviate slightly from a learned pattern. When this happens, the impact is not limited to a technical alert. It can trigger investigations and loss of trust, and in some cases lead to disciplinary actions against employees that have done nothing wrong. The Future Internet article reinforces this issue by explaining that many advanced AI models operate as black boxes, making it difficult or impossible to explain why a particular behavior was flagged. The lack of explainability becomes dangerous when automated decisions affect someone's career or reputation, especially when there is no clear way for an employee to challenge the system's conclusion. Privacy is another central concern raised by the research. Both articles explain that insider threat detection relies on long-term behavioral monitoring, which requires collecting and storing large amounts of sensitive employee data. Even when this data is gathered for security purposes, it increases the risk of misuse or repurposing beyond its original intent. The Future Internet article notes that privacy preserving techniques are still an active area of research, meaning many real world systems do not yet offer strong privacy protections. This creates ethical and legal risks for organizations, particularly under regulations that require data minimization and transparency. When monitoring becomes constant and invincible, the line between security and surveillance becomes increasingly blurred. The decisions behind the decisions being made now about AI and insider threat detection will shape how security and trust coexist in the future workplace. The research shows that organizations are rapidly moving toward cloud-based and hybrid environments that generate massive amounts of behavioral data, making AI one of the few practical ways to analyze security at scale. Once these systems are deployed, they are difficult to remove, which means early design choices about accountability and transparency become permanent features of workplace security. AI-driven monitoring concentrates significant power in systems that most employees do not understand and cannot question. Over time, this can normalize constant surveillance and quietly shift expectations about privacy at work. This topic matters because it forces organizations to confront whether security technologies are being used to genuinely protect people or whether they're reshaping workplace freedoms in ways that go unnoticed.
The central questions we are trying to answer is how can organizations use AI to detect insider threats effectively without crossing ethical or legal boundaries related to employee privacy? This is not a straightforward technical problem. At least in the United States, there are no clear or universally agreed upon laws or standards defining what constitutes acceptable employee monitoring. What one organization considers a reasonable security practice may be viewed by employees as invasive surveillance. In many cases, the degree of monitoring is determined by management, and privacy considerations may not always be prioritized. Additionally, different stakeholders, including security teams, human resources, legal departments, and employees, often have conflicting perspectives on how intrusive monitoring should be. Another key aspect of this question involves how AI systems make decisions. Many machine learning models operate as black boxes, sometimes due to proprietary or trade secret concerns, which makes it difficult to explain why certain behaviors flagged as suspicious. Because AI systems analyze many different types of data, it is often unclear which data points were considered most significant in reaching a conclusion. This lack of transparency can result in false positives or in some cases, false negatives. From an accountability standpoint, this raises important questions. If an employee is investigated or disciplined based on an AI-generated alert, who is ultimately responsible for that decision? And how can the employee challenge or appeal that determination? When we talk about drawing the line on privacy, we are really asking how organizations can limit data collections to what is necessary, ensure transparency about how monitoring systems are used, and balance organizational security needs with individual rights. Next, Dylan will explain why this issue matters and why we chose this topic.
Alan and I chose this topic because it directly reflects the work we do and the way we think about technology in real environments. I work as a systems engineer, and my role is focused on making sure systems actually function the way people expect them to. That means keeping environments stable, making sure users can access what they need, and ensuring that infrastructure continues to work as organizations grow and change. In that role, visibility matters. When something breaks or behaves unexpectedly, I am expected to understand what is happening and fix it quickly. AI-based monitoring naturally stood out to me because it is often introduced as a way to provide that visibility across large and complex systems. From my perspective as a systems engineer, these tools can feel practical and even necessary. Modern environments are spread across cloud platforms, also hybrid networks, and even remote endpoints, which which makes it harder to rely on traditional monitoring alone. AI promises to make sense of constant activity by identifying patterns and highlighting unusual behavior. When the goal is to keep systems running smoothly, it is easy to see why organizations adopt these tools. At the same time, working so closely with the infrastructure has made me aware that technical decisions do not stop at performance or uptime. The systems we build shape how people interact with their work every day and often in a way they never see. Alan approaches this topic from his role as an information security engineer, which naturally complements my perspective. His work focuses on protecting data, reducing risk, and responding to threats before damage occurs. Insider threats are especially challenging in that role because they involve trusted users rather than obvious external attackers. From a security standpoint, AI-based behavioral monitoring appears useful because it offers a way to detect warning signs that traditional tools might miss. This makes the technology appealing when the priority is preventing harm to systems and sensitive information. At the same time, Allen's role also involves thinking critically about how security controls affect people. Security is not just about stopping threats, but about deciding what level of oversight is appropriate and defensible. AI-driven monitoring introduces difficult questions because it can quietly observe behavior over long periods of time, even when employees are doing nothing wrong. This creates tension between improving detection and maintaining trust, which is something both of our roles encounter in different ways. So at the end of the day, we chose this topic because it sits exactly where our perspectives meet. As a systems engineer, I am concerned with reliability and efficiency, while Alan is focused on protection and risk. AI-based monitoring connects those goals, but it also exposes the trade-offs between technical effectiveness and human impact. Studying this topic allowed us to allowed us to take a step back and examine how tools that seem helpful at first glance can have deeper consequences once they are embedded into everyday work environments. It also reflects decisions we expect to influence in our careers. As professionals who may help design or evaluate these systems, we still have a role in shaping how much visibility organizations seek and how much trust they preserve. Exploring this topic helped us think more carefully about how security technology should be used in ways that protect systems without undermining the people who depend on them.